It's a hot summer, tempers are rising, and the last thing that you need at this time is a power cut. But I'm willing to bet this time we will not get power cuts. And why so? Because the Union Power Ministry has worked out a system with the state electricity Discoms which holds a lot of promise. What is it? Essentially, state electricity Discoms, state electricity distribution companies can raise their power tariffs that they charge for consumers without having to tell it to the electricity regulatory commissions, and that's a big deal. This is what we shall be discussing in this issue of On Point. In the Indian scheme of setting price for power or electricity, those changes can be done basically once a year. But what has happened now is those changes can be more frequent because they will be linked to variable cost. And what is this variable cost? It is the cost of imported coal, which Indian power companies are making use of in big time this summer. So let me explain. What does it mean? It means that every time the state electricity distribution companies, and we shall call them Discoms, went to the state electricity regulatory commissions, there would be a haggling for price change. The Discoms would offer a particular reason why prices need to rise, and the state electricity regulatory commissions would say no. Now, why would they say no? The reason is electricity is a political hot potato. Anybody who has pursued, who has seen elections in India, state elections, knows that as India has got electricity all over the place, the price of electricity matters as an election issue. So, political parties are most reluctant to let price of electricity go up, even if for good, genuine reasons, which is why they pack the state electricity regulatory commissions with their own men. It is not just today, it's been happening over years, but it has become extremely deep now. You show me a state electricity regulatory commission where the key men, the members, men or women, are not politically aligned, it's impossible. So what's happening? The Electricity Regulatory Commission does not change the price of power. The Discoms therefore cannot raise the price of power that they charge to retail consumers. Essentially, it's about retail consumers, and when they can't charge or rather change the price of power, they load it on either for industrial consumers or let it go. There has to be a subsidy. It is a lethal combination. In Tamil Nadu, for instance, for over a decade, the price of electricity was not changed till the new DMK government came to power, and all of a sudden it raised the price of power by almost up to 53% at one go. Now, these are risky political maneuvers. It was a new government that came into power, so it could afford to do so. But what about an election year? So, what the Power Ministry has done is smart, because it is the Discoms which will be raising the price of power. There is therefore no announcement effect. If there is no announcement effect, political parties don't get to know. If they don't get to know, then political temperatures can't go up. The larger dimension of this rule change is that it can sustainably keep down the huge overhang of unpaid electricity dues of the Discoms. Despite several iterations and the setting up of sector regulators since 1998, the financial conditions have not improved at all. The Power Ministry estimates that in the first half of 24, if the companies have to account for the higher cost of imported coal, then that will open up a 24 million gap for these companies. So what are we saying? We are saying that the Discoms in any case are already hobbled by a huge financial burden. If this year they have to import coal, and why will they have to import coal? Because power demand across the country is rising in this hot weather. How much is it rising? Well, this data shows that the peak power demand, which was 212 gigawatt last year, can this year go up to something like 230 gigawatt. Those are massive numbers. So, since coal production from Coal India, despite rising, will not cover up this gap, there will be imports. Those imports can actually be very costly for these Discoms. An ICRA research note says that if there is a 7 to 9% rise in the imported coal, then that will raise per unit cost of power by 6 to 7 paise per unit. These are very big numbers, and that is why it makes a big deal what the Power Ministry is doing. So, what the Power Ministry under Mr. R.K. Singh has allowed is to bring in a simple rule change called the Fuel and Power Adjustment Surcharge, FPPAS. It allows the regulators to soak in the price, the higher price of imported coal, and just tell the regulator that they have done so, which means that they can pass it on to their consumers. Now, the reason why I say this is big is for the generation companies which are using this imported coal to raise their production, they can't help it. They need that coal. So, if they have to produce, they need the incentive to get a higher price. That higher price is coming from the Discoms. Together, therefore, this is a package which makes life easier for the generation companies, for the distribution companies, and for the power ministries. But there's a catch. The catch is, under the new rules framed under the Electricity Act, the Discoms have the right within 90 days of those being published to approach the regulator and get the prices revised. The regulator has to approve the same within 120 days, extendable to 150 days. If the permission does not come through, it shall be deemed to have been given. The 90 days caution was necessary. Why? Because it means that the state Discoms have to tell the regulatory commission that, hey, my prices have raised, the price at which I buy my power. So, if they don't do it, then they have to carry the cost of this higher price on their balance sheet. Why was this prod necessary? Because Discoms, despite the freedom given to them, are often reluctant to act. Lots of reports have pointed out that historically most Discoms have avoided taking the step. So, the 90-day sort of restriction was necessary. Remember, last year, the Discoms' unpaid electricity dues in around April 2022 was 1,22,000 crore. Now, that's a huge number. What's the scene this year? It has come down to close to 50,000 crore. That's a huge improvement. Along with that, the change brought in by the Power Ministry gives finally a very big hope that the woes of the electricity sector may really be behind us. And if that happens, then states also will not have to bear the subsidy burden of electricity. Together, it will all mean a much more pleasant summer despite the hot sun. And that's all from this edition of 1 Point.